Okay, so this week we're starting off with one that is near and dear to both of our hearts. It's Norman Blake. This album specifically is The Fields of November, which I listened to over and over again in college. I remember my early songwriting days. In fact, Last Train from Poor Valley on here is a song that I could just about play from memory this morning when I woke up, just like it's just in me. It's such an amazing song. Norman Blake to me is an amazing like melody crafter. He's kind of, obviously anyone who knows him, both of us are familiar with his work, but it's kind of old-timey but original in a really amazing, soulful way. His wife plays with him on a lot, which is really cool. I was just sharing some of it with Carolyn earlier, and she was really enjoying it. It's just really beautiful Americana in the true sense of the word. Some of the things that I kind of forgot about and that I was blown away by is he played with Johnny Cash for 10 years in his touring band. He played on Bob Dylan's Nashville Skyline. I mean, the list goes on. We were running down some of his accolades just from his Wikipedia page, and it just was like staggering. So I don't know. I know you're a big fan. You have been for a long time. I'm curious what all you could tell us, teach us about Norman Blake.
Well, this is one that's hard to start talking because if I get going, I may not be able to stop. There's probably a downhill train song story there that Norman might write one day. Yeah, if there's a sonic tattoo in me somewhere, on me, hidden from view, but sonic tattoo in my soul, this record is part of it. This was on Flying Fish in 1974, and there's that pocket we keep running into because some of my favorite records are in that early 70s to mid 70s. It's when I opened up Horizon Records. So there was just a whole stew of confluence and things happening in my life and my collecting years and such. But to the point of Norman Blake, I mean, he's just such an American treasure, a hero, gem. And he's your classic multiple triple threat. He's a ridiculous guitar player, and many people know him from that, and that's an accurate assessment. There's nothing wrong with just being completely astounded by and in love with the sound of Norman Blake playing an acoustic guitar. That in and of itself is enough. But then there's just a really beautiful, melodious, sort of homespun, but just really right on point voice, that's honest and Southern, but not pandering. It's just Norman, talking to you when he sings. And then, as you mentioned, there's the songs that he's written, and he's in my book, just in many ways, just a unique songwriter. He writes things that sound like they're old traditional tunes. He also plays old traditional tunes, so it can be confusing if you wander through his catalog of songs, like the instrumentals, the things that sound like fiddle tunes and guitar pieces. They're like, well, that's probably a traditional tune. No, he wrote that. And then another one, you think, wow, that's a Norman piece. No, that's an old traditional fiddle tune, and so on and so forth. And then he writes these songs that are story songs, and they're quite often laments, and they harken back to, the early years. He was born in 1938, so they sort of harken back to that Depression era and even into the late 19th century with Civil War and, late 1800s kind of storylines. But they sort of have a beautiful sort of spiritual message to them. To me, Norman is like just as old-time country as it gets, but it's also kind of like you're sitting in a kitchen, you may be drinking or doing something, but you're also sort of talking to this, spiritual chaplain, Dalai Lama of the front porch at the same time. It's just really an interesting contrast and blend in his viewpoint on things. And I just can't get enough of it. That song you mentioned, Last Train from Poor Valley, I mean, if he never wrote another song as long as he lived, that would put him in the books. I mean, he writes songs too. He's got this unbelievable penchant for rhyming. A lot of people have different either sort of non-rhyming styles. They have really simplistic, every line rhymes with the one before it. But you listen to how Norman forms the lyrics and the poetry and the rhymes, and they're sort of complex, but they always sort of just snap in. It's just hard to describe. It's a thing of beauty, and it's just amazing. I mean, I just love his records. I mean, he did Back Home in Sulphur Springs and on Rounder Records in 1972. He did this one that we're talking about, Fields of November, in 76. He also did in 74 rather, and then in 1976 he did Old and New on Flying Fish, and then he did the one that a lot of people know him by in the folk and bluegrass world, called Whiskey Before Breakfast, which basically blew all the guitar players out of the room. They just, if they weren't already aware that Norman was better than they are, and it's just insane to listen to him play, that record did it. And it had a lot of good songs on it too.
What are some of your favorite songs from that record? I think I know one or two of them, but what are the?
Of course, there's Church Street. You're talking about from Whiskey Before Breakfast?
Yeah.
Church Street Blues. I mean, that's the one that, you know, everybody is familiar with. And Slow Train Through Georgia, I think, is on that one. I mean, in Norman, I don't know him well enough. A lot of the stuff sounds like places that he's lived, people he's known, or maybe he just makes stuff up, or maybe it's some of each. I mean, he's got a song about just called Uncle on Fields of November. Talks about an uncle that was an old guy that moved in with the family and might have been a bit of a ramble and a rake and played music, and the two of them played together, you know, during some hard times. I don't know. Maybe it was his uncle. Maybe it's a story. I don't know. Gray Coat Soldiers is on Fields of November. And, you know, there's a lot of controversy today about the whole, you know, which side are you on about the whole Civil War perspective historically. And I'm not one to, raise the flag of heritage at all. I don't let there be a mistake about my comments here. But Norman writes this thing called Gray Coat Soldiers, and it's pretty much a lament for the guys slogging through the war. You know, the line is Gray Coat soldiers marching in a ragged war, and it talks about Sherman burning everything down. And oh man, it's just a sad song, you know.
No, I was kind of curious about that song too. And when you read the lyrics, the last couplet of the refrain is young wives and babies cried alone for fathers they saw no more.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a song that is sympathetic with the South. It's more a song that's just kind of painting a portrait of the carnage and the loss and all the widows and the orphans kind of thing. And also, I was just thinking when you were talking about some of his other songs, one of his songs that comes to mind from a Tony Rice record, correct me if I'm wrong, that's one of our family favorites, is this song about Lincoln's funeral train, right? Is that right?
Oh my God. I'm obsessed with that song, you know, and the rhymes and the story and the way he tells it in that song is just craziness. It's so beautiful and it's so sad.
He really is a great narrator. He's a great storyteller. He's a great songwriter of writing songs in the third person. Most of his songs are kind of in that transport you to a different time period kind of a thing, but he's a master at that. And also, I would totally second what you're saying about his melodies and what you were sort of alluding to about his rhyme schemes, or his sense of rhyme is also like second to none. He's definitely in that top drawer category for what he does. I mean, in terms of his songs on paper, all the math adds up. The syllables, where he rhymes, where he doesn't. And that song that we both love so much, The Last Train from Poor Valley, the melody to that song, I was re-listening to it, is one of those things that sounds instantly familiar, but is also incredibly original and kind of, if you really listen to it more carefully, is a little bit odd. And I think that's why I was instantly drawn to it, like any other songwriter, any other artist, or any other listener or fan, really. That's the magical bullseye. It's like when you hear something, it's like, have I heard that before? And yet you're sort of want to listen to it again, because in truth, both things are true. It is based on things from the past, but it's also like you're really hearing an innovator. When I listen to Norman Blake, he seems like, gosh, he's laid the foundation for so many things and continued on, been a link in a tradition of so many things for Americana music. But at the same time, he's really contributed a lot. Yeah, I'm blown away by his songwriting.
Yeah, the music itself is in the songwriting thing. I'll mention two other songs, and then another thing about the music. And there's a song called "Back in Yonder's World." I mean, I just let anyone who hears this go seek that one out. I think it's on Blake and Rice too. I think it's another one on the same record that has Lincoln's Funeral Train, and it's really, really sort of like some kind of psychedelic Bronte sisters kind of a story. A guy wakes up in a ditch in the woods, and this mysterious guy comes rolling up in this wagon and these horses, and kind of delivers this message like, you better straighten up. And then he rides off like into the mist, and it's like this all happened back in Yonder's world, and it was just kind of like, whoa, some kind of weird mythical tale. And the other one I really like, which is on Old and New. And by the way, if you're out there searching the internet for one of these out of print CDs, you get this one. See if I can get it where you can see it, which is Fields of November. And then the same one has Old and New, the one that followed it up, because Universal Records, Universal Rounder bought Flying Fish, and then Rounder sold themselves to Universal Music, who absorbed them, and basically everything went away, But for a while there, they were putting 2-on-1 of the Flying Fish records, and these are extraordinary CDs to capture somewhere. But the song I'm going to refer to is Billy Gray.
Yeah.
Another sort of amazing life lesson, sort of housed in a historic, sort of gunslinger story. Billy Gray rode into Gantry back in '83, a wanted man and a dangerous outlaw. Young girl falls in love with him. Of course, Billy Gray dies in the street. And, the closing lines are just, true love knows no season, no rhyme or no reason, and justice is cold as the Granger County clay. I mean, damn, Norman, that's a thing of beauty right there. And another thing is, Norman's songs are this book of music that some people have interpreted, but the most, I think, fascinating interpreter of them, and Sam, my man, in Newgrass Revival, has been, recorded and sings Norman Blake songs. Ginseng Sullivan from the old days in Newgrass is one that comes to mind. But Tony Rice has always been a just life-changing interpreter of the music of Norman Blake. I saw him live with the Tony Rice unit, saw Tony with his unit, and at the Denton, North Carolina Bluegrass Festival. Doyle Lawson was putting it on up there at a place in the early 80s, and they come out there in their double-breasted suits, and it's literally 110 degrees under the shed cover, metal roof, open shed, and he drops into this super slow ballad called this Billy Gray song, and people were just weeping. I mean, literally. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So Norman's music is just a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. A true American storyteller. Check it out, guys. Norman Blake. Thanks for checking out our weekly web series, Deep Stacks, brought to you by Big X Music, a conversation each week with my dad, 40-plus year veteran of the music industry, founder of Horizon Records and concert promoter, where I sit down and we talk together about the music we're listening to. Please subscribe, leave us a comment down below, and join the conversation.